Aerobic respiration is respiration that requires oxygen. So that's what we just finished looking at, where we looked at Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. Anaerobic, that prefix "an" at the beginning, means no oxygen. And so in the absence of oxygen, cells must do anaerobic respiration to get their ATP. This is also known as fermentation. So these two go together: anaerobic, fermentation, fermentation, anaerobic. Say it over and over until there's no chance that you will tell me fermentation is aerobic, because that is wrong. Fermentation is always anaerobic process. There are two different types of fermentation. There's alcoholic fermentation that produces a couple of ATPs, mostly from glycolysis, because remember, all cells do glycolysis. It produces ethyl alcohol. Now, this process, alcoholic fermentation, is what gives us bread. It's what gives us wine. It's what gives us beer. It all really depends on the organisms that are being used. If you know anything about making bread, you have to use yeast. Yeast is actually a fungus that does anaerobic respiration, in which it's taking glucose and breaking it down. However, since it doesn't readily use oxygen, it's going to produce ethyl alcohol instead. Rather than many ATP, it's just going to make 2 ATPs and ethyl alcohol. The other type of fermentation is lactic acid fermentation. It produces an acid that builds up. Now, I hope that when you see the word lactic, you think of anything that sounds familiar, maybe like lactose, which is milk sugar. And lactose or lactic acid fermentation is used to make things like yogurt. It's used to make things like sauerkraut. But the thing that you are probably more familiar with is sore muscles. Somebody probably told you that once you were tired after exercising, you probably had lactic acid buildup. And what that means is that your body was it used up all its oxygen so much that now it had to turn to anaerobic respiration. So it did aerobic respiration until you ran out of oxygen, and you're probably still breathing in oxygen, just not enough for your body to continue doing aerobic respiration. So your body turned to anaerobic respiration. Your muscles needed energy, but there was not enough oxygen. So it resulted in sore muscles due to a lactic acid buildup. Now, that lactic acid doesn't stay in your muscles forever. It actually gets broken down by your liver, and then you start feeling just fine. But that is probably where you have heard that before. Those are two different types of anaerobic respiration, also known as fermentation, that you do need to know. Make sure you know what can be produced using both of these types of fermentation, and be able to explain how they differ from aerobic respiration, the kind of respiration that we prefer to do. Okay, that's all for that one.